Okay, guys, I have to show you some headlines. One in particular, very important, because right when I first read the headline, I immediately remembered a prophecy in the Bible. Everything's been about the Holocaust the last few days. Look at all this stuff. Jewish president of Ukraine criticized for giving up seats at commemoration to Holocaust survivors. German president recites Hebrew blessing at opening of Holocaust ceremony, manifesting verse in Isaiah. How much money you want to bet he did verse 53, the one that they took out of the Torah? British royal family members attend multiple Holocaust remembrance ceremonies. Israel's president addresses over 40 world leaders ahead of World Holocaust Forum. Remember I did this one about Macron kicking them guys out of that supposed to be French territory? Yeah. I guess there was some new information that came out about it. Less than 2 months after French President Emmanuel Macron proudly proclaimed that Jews are and make France, the French premier seemed to do everything possible to mar the spirit of what was supposed to be a visit commemorating the liberation of Auschwitz uprising in the Jewish state. After Macron landed in Israel, he went straight to Jerusalem. There, the man who said he will govern France like Jupiter, remember all that stuff about him? Well, everybody was sure he was the Antichrist. The Roman king of the gods visited the church of St. Anne, which is considered French property in Jerusalem. The Israeli police, who were tasked with providing him security, were taken aback when the French premier threw a fit and tried to order them out of the church. I showed you guys the confrontation video. The Israeli police refused to leave the site, and so Macron backed down and exited the property himself. Background. France, under Napoleon, helped the Ottoman Turks during the Crimean War. In gratitude, the Ottoman Sultan gave France the Crusader-era church. Rumors were floating around that Macron issued an apology to the Israeli police for his outburst. However, the French Foreign Ministry cleared the issue by stating that no such apology was issued. The real reason: Amit Barak, founder of Documenting and Monitoring Unauthorized Activities, that doesn't even sound like it should be a thing, a volunteer organization that exposes illegal activities of anti-Israel activists in Israel on tourist visas, claims now the real reason why Macron wants to keep the Israeli police outside of the historic church. According to Barak, within the church there is an illegal anti-Israeli operation taking place in an inner compound on the property of St. Anne's Church under the guise of the French government. That's not even a surprise. Anyone who tries to enter that compound are immediately told to leave by French authorities at the site. Additionally, a diplomatic vehicle stands guard outside the inner complex during visiting hours. And there's a member of EAPPI, I don't know who that is, wearing the organization's beige vest, trying to censor photographs. That's because that compound is the Israeli headquarters of EAPPI, well, an organization of the World Council of Churches who engages in BDS and anti-Israel activity, Barak told Breaking Israel News. The organization is illegal, and it has not obtained a proper permits to operate in Israel. This is why the switch volunteers for every 3 months, as that is, or they switch volunteers every 3 months, as that is the limit for a tourist visa, Barak explained. Since it is French property, the Israel government doesn't enter the compound. According to Barak, this unofficial immunity enables EPIs, something like that, activists to track and record IDF movements in Hebron, something that is illegal for tourists to do, Barak added. According to Barak, the EP is known to be anti-Semitic, and their activists have been caught spreading anti-Semitic propaganda on social media as well. They moved into that location 6 years ago, and this is the first time a French president is visiting that location since EP has relocated to the Church of St. Anne. Here's a video on that. I'm not going to play that for you guys. It gets worse. Macron visited the Temple Mount as a guest of the Jordanian Waqf, the unofficial Jordanian-funded custodians of the site. There was no official Israeli delegation present during his visit to the holy site. This left the French premier subject to a one-sided Muslim narrative that went unchallenged by anyone present. According to the Arab media, the Waqf guide referred to Jordan's King Abdullah as the defender of Jerusalem's holy Christian sites, despite the fact that the peace agreement with Jordan refers to Muslim holy sites exclusively. Additionally, his visit was coordinated between the French consulate and the Jordanian Waqf without involving or even informing any Israeli diplomatic channel. Taking him out from within? Below is a post showing Macron receiving a by the Waqf tour on the Temple Mount. And it's all in Hebrew. I can't read it. Bad timing. And although Macron allegedly arrived in Israel to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, here again we have everything's been about the Holocaust. He met with Holocaust denier and PA chairman Mahmoud Abbas on Wednesday at his palace in Ramallah as well. Deja vu. Interestingly, back in 1996, then French President Jacques Chirac had a similar confrontation with Israeli security personnel while visiting Jerusalem, where he also called them a provocation. Seeing a running theme here? Okay. So I want to touch on that one because I had touched on that one before. Remember the Italian guy? Top Italian politician, if I win the elections, I will recognize Jerusalem. Is he opening to Messiah at the gate of Rome? So they're still talking about that one. But there's one. Check this out. And as soon as I read this headline, immediately I thought of Valley of Dry Bones. Bones of Holocaust victims rise from underground in Auschwitz. Literally, they're floating up to the surface. Zaka recently received inquiries from tour guides and visitors to the extermination camps in Poland about the phenomenon of thousands of human bones floating above ground after the rain. In coordination with the government officials in Poland, a Zaka delegation and representatives of the Committee for the Preservation of Jewish Cemeteries in Europe recently visited the camps in order to assess the phenomenon. Engineers from the Polish government also participated in the delegation. The delegation discovered many examples of human bones emerging from the ground. This phenomenon was witnessed over a wide area in Auschwitz-Birkenau, where over 1 million people, 90% of them Jews, were murdered. Many bone fragments were found, mainly in the ponds surrounding the crematoria, where some of the ash had been thrown. According to Jewish law, all bone fragments larger than a grain of barley should be buried, and ash should be treated in the same manner as bones. Following the visit, the delegation prepared a report which contains ideas for dealing with this phenomenon. Zaka chairman Yehuda Mishizahav noted that this is a complex engineering and logistics project that requires the guidance of advice of engineers and hydrologists. We call upon the heads of states participating in the World Holocaust Conference before dealing with the commemoration of the victims. It is more important to deal with their dignity. We appeal to you with a humanitarian request to help carry the burden of this complex project so that after 75 years, the bones of the Jewish victims of the Holocaust who were murdered in the sanctification of the divine name will be brought to rest. How interesting this happens during... How interesting that this happens during all the Holocaust stuff, all the commemorations. How interesting that God's people, even though they've been dead for almost 80 years, are crawling back up out of the ground and announcing, well, what did he say? The blood cries out from the ground. So, yeah. Interesting. I feel like this is prophetic in so many ways. Because it goes back to a lot of stuff that was talked about in the Bible about the Valley of Dry Bones, the blood crying from the ground, the dead rising. There's another event we know coming where the dead are going to rise. Guys, I'm telling you, this is unheard of. I mean, this has happened before, don't get me wrong. But the timing is just amazing. One more headline. Christian Birthright accused of snubbing prophetic return of Jews to Judea, Samaria. Both Jewish and Christian critics of a popular program that brings Christian college students to Israel accuse the program of presenting their participants with an unbalanced view of the religion, or the region, focusing on the Palestinian narrative at the expense of the prophetic return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. We all know that everything about that is completely prophetic. How long were they gone? 1,500 years? Almost 2,000 years, and to those people that's not prophetic. Yet we can't find another culture that survived that long in ascension and then come back and everything goes right back the way it was. But are these accusations justified? Breaking Israel News dove in to examine the issues to see where the truth actually lies. Thousands of Christian college students visit Israel each year with passages. an organization co-funded 5 years ago by Robert Nicholson and Rivka Kidron, and modeled after the well-known birthright trips to Israel for young Jews. According to a recent story in the Jerusalem Post, by the end of 2020, the organization will have brought 10,000 Christian students to experience the land of Israel for themselves. That's cool. This news ought to be greeted with excitement by longtime Christian Zionists and Israeli Jews. Indeed, Passages has gotten a fair amount of positive press coverage of it in Israel of late. However, there's always a however or a but. Critics of the program reveal a problematic aspect of the Passages experience that isn't widely discussed. In a related story, Passages co-founder Robert Nicholson recently went on record urging Israel to do more for its Christian community in exchange for continuing evangelical support. This statement, and the fact that Nicholson did not express any condemnation to the Palestinian Authority's treatment of Christians, also ruffles some Jewish and Christian Zionist feathers. Missing a critical perspective. David Ha'ivri is a councilman in the municipal government of Samaria. He told Breaking Israel News that Passages students are simply not provided with an opportunity to visit Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria during their time in Israel. The regions of Judea and Samaria are the core of the biblical connection, and the people of Israel to the land of Israel. For unclear reasons, the Passages program avoids this part of the story and chose not to engage with the Jewish community in the heartland. They seem to invest more of their time and effort sympathizing with the Palestinians rather than supporting the prophetic return of the Jewish people to the land of the Bible, which is strange and disappointing. Well, if they're trying to indoctrinate them, it's not strange at all. It's exactly what they should be doing. They're indoctrinating them to feel for the plight of the Palestinian people, who, to date, have no claim to that land. It's not theirs. It's never going to be theirs. Let's see. Breaking Israel News independently confirmed that Passages participants do visit Muslim-majority Bethlehem and meet with a speaker who shares the Palestinian narrative with them. But that ought to tell you everything you need to know about that. Ha'ivri has developed and led foreign affairs for the Shomron, the Samaria Regional Council, for the past 15 years, serving as an advisor to the head of the council in its relations with the Christian world. He has led hundreds of VIP tours in Samaria for foreign guests from all backgrounds, including many Christian leaders and groups. Similar criticism was voiced by John Enarson, who serves as a Christian Relations Director of Cry for Zion, a nonprofit organization that advocates for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount. Lot of politics going on over there, but we can see clearly, we've only just shared two stories where they're obviously trying to push down the Jewish people's right to the land and bring up somebody else's right to the land that doesn't exist. Because when the Palestinians went over there, and they hadn't been there real long, when they went in there, they destroyed everything. When the Jews came back and started coming back in 47, they started cleaning everything up and fixing it. Israel is the way it is now because of the Jewish people, not the Palestinian people. Okay, we don't need to go any further into this one. We're pretty clear on what's going on here. This is clearly indoctrination. So, where do we go with all this? That's interesting. That's interesting that stuff like that happens with what's going on right now. That's what makes it prophetic. This bones of the Holocaust victims rise up from underground in Auschwitz, and it's happening while they're having the commemorations. That's prophetic. I mean, that stuff happens all the time, but not with that kind of timing. Usually it's just random. So that kind of stands out. I'm curious to see. Let's see. Let's see which one he pulled out. I was just curious which one, if he brought up 53 or not. Okay, guys, well, that was the headlines I wanted to show you. I thought that kind of was interesting and jumped out the way it did. Keep watching the news. Keep watching the world stage. Guys, this whole thing with the coronavirus, as this is a manufactured problem. They made this. So understand where these things are coming from. This is all stuff that's meant to lead us into the tribulation. And now all of a sudden there's a huge push forward to get things going. And has anybody noticed, just in the month of January, everything suddenly now is pushing forward? Like they're trying to do the peace deal like now. Well, what happened? Why is there a sudden push for it? And I say everybody's flying all over the world, having all these meetings. Why? What's the sudden push for? Something's happening. Keep your eyes on the skies, and I'll do my best to keep you guys informed. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.